I'm Johanna Miller, the Energy and Climate Program Director at the Vermont Natural Resources Council, and I'm here with colleagues to share a little bit of an overview about one of the core recommendations of the Vermont Climate Council's December 2021 adopted climate action plan, and that is the clean heat standard. As you are likely well aware, how we heat our buildings, the thermal sector, equates to about 34% of the state's greenhouse gas emissions. As you know, we import all of the fossil fuels that we use, and the primary way that we stay warm in the state of Vermont, as you can see by this slide behind me, is through imported fossil fuels. Many of us heat our homes and heat our buildings through reliance on fuel oil, natural gas, propane, and those imported resources are having significant consequences for our planet. The good news is that the Climate Council identified a clean heat standard as a tool that we can employ. It's a performance-based standard to begin to slowly, strategically, and equitably ratchet down carbon intensivity of the fuels and the resources that we use to heat our homes. As not only do we need to be thinking about how we help Vermonters more affordably heat their homes and reduce their energy burdens, but we also need to make sure that the fuel provider sector, who has been helping Vermonters stay warm for generations, really is able to transition into a new business model, keeping Vermonters warm with options other than fossil fuel. We need to do as much as we can through weatherization, conservation, and efficiency, and yet we still need to make sure that Vermonters stay warm through some other clean heat measures. And the clean heat standard, which is now under consideration in the Senate and in the legislature, is one performance-based standard to really do that. So there are very important provisions in that policy. For us, some critical principles that any enacted policy must meet is that it has to be climate accountable, put us on track to meet the emissions reduction requirements of the Global Warming Solutions Act in the thermal sector, to do that in an equitable way, equitable both for lower income, historically overburdened Vermonters, as well as for the fuel provider sector, and again, any stepped and strategic blueprint for evolving their plans, and to do that sustainably, really thinking about making sure that if we source biofuels, that we are looking at the life cycle greenhouse gas emissions and looking at sustainability, including land use changes and other important ecological and environmental considerations that we must absolutely identify and address to avoid irreparable consequences and costs to our environment and to our planet. So it's a really important, big policy. It's very complex, but it will, we hope, set us on a path to begin to make required emissions reductions in the thermal sector. So we're looking forward to giving you a greater insight into what some of those other core provisions of this policy are. So stay tuned.
Hi there, I'm Jordan Giaconia, Public Policy Manager with Vermont Businesses for Social Responsibility, a statewide business association with over 650 members committed to using the power of their enterprises for positive social and environmental change. So let's talk about the Clean Heat Standard. Like Vermont's Renewable Electricity Standard, H715, the Clean Heat Standard, or CHS, would begin to ramp down pollution for Vermont's thermal sector. In other words, how we heat our homes and businesses. And it would do it at a pace and scale that's not only commensurate with the science, but also flexible enough to ensure a just transition for our wholesale fuel providers and retailers who have been helping Vermont heat their homes all these years. If passed, the Clean Heat Standard will be rolled out incrementally over several years, beginning with a 2-year public engagement process designed to ensure that Vermont's businesses, fuel dealers, manufacturers, advocates, and citizens alike all can help shape the ins and outs in this program. Once underway, suppliers can choose from a suite of options to meet their emissions reductions requirements, from offering incentives to offset the cost of heat pumps, to also offering wood heat stoves, weatherization services, and other less intensive options. They can also choose to pursue transitional, less carbon-intensive energy sources like biofuels to offset some of their traditional fossil fuel sales. Locally, nationally, and globally, the transition to a green economy has already begun. And the price volatility that we're seeing with fossil fuels is also negatively impacting Vermont's fossil fuel providers and consumers, many of which are already working to diversify, investing in solar and wind, weatherization, and heat pumps. The clean heat standard would take their work to new heights. So what does this mean for Vermont's economy? Well, firstly, the clean heat standard would keep more dollars flowing into our local economies. In the past decade, Vermonters have spent an average of roughly $2 billion per year on 100% imported fossil fuels. And of that $2 billion, 75% drained out of Vermont's economy. More efficient alternatives, on the other hand, things like biofuel, propane, and also would keep far more energy dollars here in Vermont. In 2018 alone, Vermonters spent over $835 million on electricity, for example, with over $520 million, or 62% of that amount, recirculating within the state. And as you can see, alternatives such as propane keep a significantly higher share of dollars flowing into Vermont's economy. Secondly, and just as importantly, the clean heat standard would put thousands of Vermonters to work in family-sustaining jobs in HVAC, weatherization, advanced wood heating. In fact, Vermont's Climate Council estimates that our little state would create a whopping 3,500 new jobs per year by meeting our emissions reductions commitments, meaning that the few jobs that will be lost in our fossil fuel sector will be vastly offset by new jobs created in our energy efficiency and clean energy sectors. So in short, a well-designed clean heat standard is a tremendous opportunity for our businesses, our consumers, and our fuel providers to justly move away from price volatile fossil fuels and toward cleaner, more affordable alternatives. So let's get to work.
Hi, my name is Ben Edgerly-Walsh, and I run the Climate and Energy Program for VPIRG. And I just wanted to share a little bit about how we think about energy, equity, weatherization, and how all of those pieces play into the Clean Heat Standard bill under consideration this legislative session. Whenever we're thinking about energy and the concept of equity, it's incredibly important to understand that the status quo is deeply, deeply inequitable. Vermonters with the lowest incomes have the highest energy burden. They spend the highest portion of their income on energy today. That's true for transportation. That's true in the heating sector, and that cannot remain true if we're going to have a truly equitable state and a truly equitable economy. The only way we're actually going to change that fact is to take action and to move Vermonters away from using high-cost, highly price volatile fossil fuels. There are a few really important ways to do that. And the first one is weatherization, is making Vermont's homes more efficient. As you can see behind me on this graph, we have just a boatload of work to do to actually weatherize all the low and moderate income homes in Vermont that need to be made more efficient, to make it easier for the people living in those homes to make ends meet and to lower their energy burden. VPIRG and VNRC and a whole host of other organizations have worked very hard annually to ensure that we have adequate funding for weatherization. That's why we're so excited that this year, this legislative session, we are on track to see $80 million in new funding for low and moderate income weatherization in the budget. That would be a game changer and could enable weatherizing as many as 9,000 or 10,000 homes over the next several years here in Vermont, many of them at no cost to the Vermont families in those homes. That's a huge step in the right direction, but it is not nearly enough. We need to keep on building from there, and that is part of why we support the Clean Heat Standard.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lauren Hurl. I'm the Executive Director of Vermont Conservation Voters, and thank you so much for watching this video to learn more about the Clean Heat Standard. As you've heard, we've been working incredibly hard to try to ensure that the Clean Heat Standard will meet climate pollution reduction requirements, use true life cycle accounting so the program doesn't support false solutions and ensures we're transitioning to clean and renewable heating sources for all Vermonters, and ensuring that we're taking steps to improve the equity of the program. We believe the Senate made improvements in all of these areas to what the House passed and deserves to move forward. I also wanted to note that there are 2 years of public process and rulemaking and engagement opportunities to weigh in on how this program is implemented. And it's going to be critically important that we are all there every step of the way to ensure that we are meeting these climate and equity goals. And so there's going to be a lot of opportunity and making sure that that processes include a lot of voices, including people who are far too often left out of processes like this. So at the end of the day, we are asking you all to contact your senators to support the clean heat standard. Let's move it forward. A quick call or personal email will go a long way. We're anticipating the bill will be heading to the Senate floor soon. And we want a strong vote showing that Vermont is willing to act on our own climate action plan, move forward the ambitious policies that we need as we do it in a way that, again, centers equity and accountability for meeting our climate pollution reduction targets. So thanks for watching. Thanks for making a call or sending an email to your senators. And we'll be keeping you posted in other ways on what is happening. And thanks for so much engagement and interest in what this policy will mean for Vermont. Take care.